Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be doing a review on the Mad Ace Tactical NDT Scout Mount for the Model 48 Mauser. Also fits the Model 24/47. So there are a bunch of different scope mount systems, like forward long eye relief scope mount systems for milsurp rifles on the market. There's scads of them out there, and they're all a little bit different. But I ended up choosing one from a company called Mad Ace Tactical. And here's their product here in this little pouch. It's an internet business, so you have to do online ordering for it. I've never actually seen one of these in a gun store. They may be out there. I've never actually personally seen one. And I'm not really sure if they're US based or Canadian based, because when I ordered mine, the package came from Canada and it came fast. Like, it was like a few days. It came from Vancouver, I think. So I don't know if they've got, maybe a warehouse or a guy in Canada that he gets an email from Mad Ace Tactical and they just send it up, or what. I'm not really sure, but it's North American, that's for sure. At least I think so. I don't know. It could be made in China and then sent over here and then distributed from North America. I don't really 100% know. I suspect most of the mounts are made in China. But they offer all kinds of different products, and they've got videos. That's a nice thing about the internet-based business. They actually have a video on how to install this exact mount. And if I can remember, I'll try to put the link to their site on this video. So what really caught my eye, this particular mount really interested me, was the model specific mount. Now the Model 48 and the Model 27 and Model 26, Model 24/47 or Model 24 have this forward hand guard. It's not the same as the K98. I'll try to get a photograph of the K98 in here, but their handguard only comes up to here, and they've got a retainer, a built-in retainer that holds the handguard in. But this style, on the Yugos, the handguard goes the entire length, right up to the receiver, and it has a bunch of bulk and material in around the rear sight, and that's a bit of a problem for the K98K style of rear sight, because they're quite bulky and it interferes with the hand grip. This is an example. This is AIM Sports. They're a Chinese manufacturer, but it's a pretty good example of the type of forward scope mount for K98s. And unfortunately, even though it does fit, oops, sorry, that's backwards. It does fit well. Like, there's no interference between the actual mount and the wood around, but the retainment screw system has this big, heavy screwed knob thingy. It's a thumb screw thing, and it interferes. Actually, you can see where I tried to mount it, and it did put a little bit of a dent. I couldn't get it all the way tight. There's a huge gap in it. It just didn't work. Same thing with the back side of the pin, where it runs in to the rear sight here, and this actually interferes with the wood. So you can't have your handguard on while you're using one of these AIM Sports mounts. So that sucks, because now you get stuff all kind of flapping around, and I didn't like it. So that's no good. Also, these are extremely high. They're very tall. Not really sure why, but they're way taller than they really need to be. Like the Mad Ace Tactical mount. Pull it out of here. Line up these pins here. Like, those are the pinholes that retain it into the receiver, and it is quite a bit lower. Like, we're talking, I don't know, probably more than 1/4 of an inch. And when it comes to sighting systems, that matters. Like, that's quite a bit lower. This sits very flush into the receiver. Like, it's very low. it's not that much taller than the actual sights. So that's a real advantage over other products. And there's a few reasons why. I mean, when it comes to forward scope mounts, and scope mounts in particular, well, the existing stock design, like the butt stock, this is all designed to keep your face low enough to look just over the bore, you know, the very top of the rifle, so you can line up those sights right. You know, you want to keep the sights nice and low to the rifle. That way you have less problems with it snagging on stuff. And there's a bit of a problem. The taller your sight is in the rear, and the more of an upward shooting position you end up in. So it has some problems with your sighting system. So the lower the better. And the same thing kind of works for the scopes as well. You know, so what ends up happening is that your chin, it ends up high up on your buttstock when you're looking through a tall scope, and it makes it difficult to keep a constant face weld. Like your cheek weld on the buttstock is never the same twice. It's a bit of an issue, and it doesn't help with your accuracy. Yeah, a high scope snag. You're going to snag on branches and other stuff. And most long eye relief scope mounts or scopes are not big. They're compact. They're small. Like I'll be using an NC Star. I know, haha, NC Star junk, but we'll see how it works out. I mean, they're pretty cheap. I've heard lots of good reviews about them, but this is a 30mm aperture on it, so they're not big. It's not like 40 or even a 50. Those are gigantic, huge things. So it'll be nice and tight and low to the scope, or sorry, low to the rifle, which I like. So here's a breakdown of the parts that you get with the kit, with the Bad Ace kit. Nice little package here. It's nice and small. It's kind of nice compared to the other competitors, which is a box like this, big clunky thing. This can be sent in a bubble wrap envelope. This can't. So that's an advantage. You get a set of instructions, and I like to give them some real kudos when it comes to their instructions. This is what you get. That's awesome. It's a full set of instructions in color with photos. That's great. You compare that to the competitors, and this is what you get. I mean, I've seen larger pieces of paper in a fortune cookie, for crying out loud. Look at this. As I go, make sure weapon is not loaded. Punch out rear sight crosspin. Sure. Where is it? You know, what do you do? There's no photos. There's no descriptions. Really basic, you know, remove the rear sight. You know, tighten the screw. Oh, come on, really? That's terrible. This is so much better. Photographs, exactly where to, you know, if you're going to use a punch to drive the mount in, they show you exactly where to do it. They show you exactly where the rear pin goes in, where the screw is, how to shim it up afterwards if it's not this is really good. So thank you for that. Here's the some thread locker. That's pretty nice. You don't have to go out and get your own stuff, because for sure you're going to be doing this at 8 o'clock at night after the kids have gone to bed, and you're going to find out you don't have any thread locker, or the thread locker that you have is completely solid and, you know, it's dried out. And then now what are you going to do? You're going to run down to the hardware store, you know, at 8 o'clock at night? Well, it's closed. You know, that sucks. So this is pretty nice. It also contains the rear pin, and it comes with a Torx wrench. So that's pretty cool. Here's the mount itself. And here's the front screw there with the retaining nut. And also, they include this little piece of shim stock, which is a nice little touch, because nobody adds shim stock with their stuff. Finding this stuff is actually, well, it's a little difficult sometimes, depending on what city you live in. Like, for example, I cannot find shim stock in my town. Just nowhere. Nobody carries it. So I have to order online. Is that ridiculous? It totally is ridiculous. But this is a complete kit. It's got absolutely everything you need in it. Great instructions. All the tools you need to install it. including thread locker, which is pretty sweet. The mount itself, of course, and of course the little piece of shim stock here if you need it, which probably won't, but we'll see. So thumbs up. I'm pretty impressed with that. When you compare that with their competitors, here's these guys. You get you get the mount, and you do get some Allen wrenches with it. And there's the front, my old front sight. Okay, so there's all the bits and bobs and the instruction and a really big bulky box. This is pretty nice. I like it. So just a couple of tips here to make it a little easier for you when you install this. You're going to need a set of punches, and unfortunately the punch that I've got, the smallest punch that I've got, is a little too big to actually punch this pin out. Like, that's the idea, where you punch this pin out, you drive it out, and that's one of the retaining pieces of retainment that keeps this rear sight in. But unfortunately this is too big. It's also bent. Gotta replace that. So what I ended up doing is I ended up getting a very, very fine drill. And I used the drill bit, stuck it in there, and then tapped it out. This pin here, this little guy, is it's not in there super tight, so it took some light taps to get it out. It wasn't a big deal. But it is very small. It's like 78 thou. So it's pretty puny. Most people's punches will not work on this, so something to keep in mind. I removed the handguard retaining screw. Now this part here is the part where you got to remove the rear sight. Now on the Model 48s, wow, the spring underneath here, it must be from the suspension from a T55 or something. It is tough. It's a tough spring. I cannot. You see videos of people doing this for K98s. They're a little worn and torn. And they just push on it and it comes out. Well, that is not happening for this rifle. Now, Bad Ace Tactical has predicted this, and they actually show how to remove it. But unfortunately, since it's just a photograph, it doesn't really give the whole story. You need to punch something with a broad front, like this. And the idea is to tilt it back a little bit and get it right here on an angle. And then you use a hammer to tap it down and out. Sort of like this. You gotta grab this, put it right there on the edge, and you can see this. Tap, tap, tap. And there we go. It's out. Plunk. The spring, wow, it is tough. It's a very strong spring. But once you know the trick, and you put it right on that edge, tap, 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 it comes out. No problem at all. Those are 3 very light taps. No big. No biggie at all. Then with the, where's my pliers? You just use a set of pliers. You grab onto this and you can pull it out. Okay, so the mount is installed. I'm about ready to actually put the scope on. But there is something you should know. This front sight pin here, the one that retains the front of the mount into the old front rear sight housing, is actually quite loose. This pin, I mean, it can go in and out really easy. But let's get that back into position. Whoops. Let's put that back in. You can see how easy this comes in and out just by hand pressure. But once you tighten this down, this wedges and that becomes tight again. Like this won't poke out easy now that this is tight. You'd have to really whack on that with a hammer to get it out. But if you're worried about it, you could put a little dab of epoxy on here, or even a little dab of the thread locker that comes with it, and that'll lock that in and you won't have to worry about it again. But it is a little freaky at first because you put the pin in, it just slides in like nothing because it's actually undersized. But once you tighten this up, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so here's the finished product. The mount is installed. I've got a couple of Burris Z-rings onto the mount, and I've got the NCSR scope on there. And there's plenty enough room here for this particular scope. The eye distance between, you know, the rear of the aperture and my face is just great. I think this mount would probably work for most long eye relief scopes. There shouldn't be any problem with that. It's well enough forwards where there's there's plenty of room here to get a stripper clip in with ammunition. And of course, you know, the bolt is 100% clear of the scope. It's pretty nice because now you can get a really good look into the action. You know, if you're doing any jams or clearing jams or having any feeding problems, there's no obstructions whatsoever in the way, which is pretty nice. Safety is clear. You know, you can work the safety without any problems at all, which is pretty cool. It's nice to have that. Now, if you compare this to say the competitor, which is the AIM scope mount, you can see right away that this would be a lot taller. And then combined with these crappy rings that NC Star includes with their scope, they're super tall. They've got this little window here, so I don't know if that's meant for being able to see the sights through, which is kind of redundant. I mean, obviously you're going to be losing your sights probably if you're going to be using a long eye relief scope mount. So you just have a look at that. You know, that's a fair bit taller than the Burris rings. So between the combination of these two products, it would be quite a bit higher. This is about as low as you can go. If you could find a lower set of rings, I guess that would be better. I fit tested this, and even with it as low as possible, like where the bottom of the scope was actually touching the mount, it still cleared the wood. So the lowest rings that you can find, the better. But even so, this is actually not too bad. Just get my pinky finger here in between the bottom of the bell and the action, so there's not a lot of extra room. So I'm pretty happy with that. So overall, it's a good fit. You know, it's centered, and the eye relief is just right, and it looks pretty solid. So I'm going to leave this for probably until next week. Right now, it's winter time, and the sun goes down really quick here, and there just isn't enough time for this to dry and then go to the range. I can't get to the range after work because it's dark already, so I'm going to have to wait until next week to do it. So I'll take some film of how the rifle turns out and what the targets turn out. Okay guys, I thought I'd give you some video here of the results. Taking it out to the range and did some shooting at 25 meters to get it zeroed, and then brought it out to 100 meters and shot for effect. Did a little bit of tuning up as I was going along. So here's the rifle. Sorry about the shadows, it's getting a little late in the day. Hopefully you can see it. But here she is in all her glory with the Scout mount on there. Overall, it held really solid. I didn't have any problems with it. I suppose over time, practice and shooting will reveal whether or not it holds solid for long term. But in the short term so far, it hasn't come loose. The screws are still nice and tight. Here's the rest of it. These are pretty good rifles, the Model 48s. If you get the chance to pick one up, I highly recommend you do. I don't think we're ever going to see another batch of, you know, Model 98 military rifles released to the public in this kind of condition ever again. They aren't making them and haven't been making them for a very long time. And it's a brand new rifle. Brand new rifle. When are you ever going to get one ever again? Again, another view of the mount. Okay, here's the target. Now, this is my 100 meter target, which I started off shooting for the center, and I got a 3-round group really super low. I had it pretty much centered at 25 meters, and with the load that I'm shooting, which is that 13 grains of red dot, the load, I got a video on it. You can review it if you like. It shot like 10 inches low at 100 meters from 25 to 100. So it goes to show the bullet drop, how low velocity we're talking about. But there are 3 rounds in here. I don't know what was going on with the board that was up against, but it looked like it shredded and poked through the paper. But there's probably 1, 2, 3. That's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. I readjusted, shot for the center again, and got another group here. So 1, 2, 3. It's kind of hard to tell. The paper's all flattened out, but there's one hole. Put a fluorescent backing in behind here so you can see the holes. Here's another hole, and there's a hole, another hole. So 1, 2, 3. You know, so we're talking 1, 2. That's a 3-inch group right there. Adjust it a little bit more, turn it to the right a little bit, and then shot again. And here's another three round group. 1, 2, 3, where it's tightened up a little bit. I must be getting a little bit more proficient with the rifle at range. It is a 2-power scope on there, so I did notice that when I got my crosshairs on this little ball, that was like about as much resolution as I could tell. I could see that there was a dot here somewhere, and my crosshair was somewhere around the middle of the dot. So it's pretty hard to see, especially in this light. I mean, look at my keys here. Look at the shadow it's given off by my keys. So the sun is really low on the horizon. But that's pretty good. I mean, that's like, what, say 2/3. So that's 1.5 inch-ish. Around there somewhere. Maybe, yeah, about 1.5 inches. I'm pretty happy with that, though, considering. And then I let the rifle cool down. And here's another 3-round group. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Again, a pretty solid tight group. And then reloaded. And then there's my last group of the day. So it's 1, 2, 3. Again, a pretty solid, you know, we're talking sub 2 inches. So 2 inches or less at 100 meters with this setup. So overall, I'm pretty stoked at that. When you consider the rifle itself is as is, it's unbedded. I've done some cleanup work on the trigger, so the trigger's a little nicer than normal. But that's about it. It's as issued, except for that scope, of course, and the scope mount. And I am very pleased. Oh, there we go. That's a little brighter. I'm very pleased with the scope mount. I think it's held really solid. It's very, very low over the bore. I didn't have any problems with cheek weld whatsoever when I was shooting. Compared to I was shooting a Model 96 with a traditional scope on it as well today. And yeah, you can totally feel it when you're shooting at on the original military stock. Your cheek is, well, it's not on the tip, but it's certainly close enough. And it is a little, you have to concentrate on, you know, do I clamp my teeth? Or do I just leave my chin loose? Or what? You have to start thinking about that kind of stuff when you're using a traditional scope on a really tall scope mount. But this is pretty low, and I really like it. Yeah, I think I'm going to start shooting this rifle a whole bunch more. I'm just going to load up as much 8x57 brass as I can with that red dot load with a 218 grain bullet, that Swedish machine gun ammunition. I think it's from an 8x63, if I'm correct. Full metal jacket, big long tapered bullet, and just going to shoot the crap out of it. Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for watching, folks. Have a good one, and I'll see you out on the range.